today's practice, we are just going to be focusing mostly on building strength in the spine. So that's super important because your spine is your foundation of health. And they say you are only as young as your spine is. So we're going to, throughout the practice, just be focused on that. We're going to be trying to think about those energetic channels from the coccyx or the sacral spine all the way up through the neck. So a lot of people forget that the neck is an extension of the spine, so we're going to treat it as such today. And we're going to start, like always, just by dropping in. Find your nice, tall, seated posture, stacking the head over the heart over the pelvis, in your cross-legged seat. Again, if it's uncomfortable for you to sit this way, if the spine can't stack sitting in this position, like if you kind of bow forward in the upper back, or you have a tilt in the pelvis, it can help to just put a small pillow underneath your hips. So if you need to do that, please feel free to do so. And we're going to start just by dropping in. So when you get there and get comfortable, bring your hands to the tops of your knees, and I invite you to close your eyes if it feels good. And we'll start just by connecting with the breath. So as always, we're dropping in, just noticing how we feel in the physical body, but also in the intellectual, emotional, and spiritual bodies, whatever that means to you. Trying to quiet the mind, letting go of any active thoughts that you're having, and just allowing yourself to be present on the mat. So I said that we're going to stay connected with the posture today and really the strength of the spine and the energetic channels through the spine. But also remember just to keep coming back to the breath. If you find yourself getting frustrated or distracted, just notice that, observe, make a note of it, and let it go. If you want to establish a mantra for today's practice, think about what brought you here today, your reason for showing up for this practice today. Or you can just use the mantra, I'm building a strong foundation through daily self-care. We're going to start really slowly here in the beginning, just with some simple movement through the spine, including what's basically a seated cat-cow. So as you're connecting with the breath here, we're going to start to pair the breath with some movement in the spine. So before we begin, I just want you to think about stacking the spine, lifting the chest up toward the ceiling, rolling the shoulders back. Chin should be parallel to the floor. So you're really thinking of pulling the heart space upward and stacking that spine nice and tall. The natural curvature to the spine, that's fine. And every body is different, but just try to think of getting long from the waist upward. And then as we sync up with the breath, we're going to find some gentle articulation through the spine by practicing that cat-cow. So as you inhale, really lift the chest, maybe lift the gaze, roll the shoulders back. And as you exhale, curl the low ribs inward, pressing the thoracic spine outward, tucking the chin. And you can sync up with your natural breathing rhythm as you move through these. Inhaling, opening the chest, rolling the shoulders back, lifting the gaze. Exhaling, curling inward. And I would just encourage you to seek new sensations as you do this. So the spine is going to have natural points of flexion and extension, but really try to push beyond those naturally flexible parts of the spine and just find some new movement. So just pushing a little further into the thoracic spine, lifting the chest a little higher. Just beginning to warm up gently. Staying connected with the breath. And closing your eyes if it feels good. We'll go through this 1 or 2 more times. Move at your own pace. Remember, this practice is yours. So if you need to stay in this motion longer, that's fine. You do you. But when you're ready, we'll come back to a neutral spine, nice and stacked how we started. So the next thing we're going to do is the first of many spinal twists. So we'll start by bringing the right hand to the left knee, swimming that left hand around and behind you, planting the fingertips, sitting up, lifting and twisting. And today I really want to focus on that nice long plumb line, that line coming straight up through the posture. Feeling that energetic channel opening up. We're going to stay here for a few breaths. So on your exhales, try to sink a little deeper into that twist, maybe looking over your left shoulder. And on your inhales, really think about drawing the chest up toward the ceiling, rolling the shoulders back, and maybe finding something new in the sensations of the back. Take 1 or 2 more cycles of breath here just to explore. And when you're ready, you can slowly, gently, mindfully move back through center. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So left hand comes to the top of the right knee. Right hand comes back behind you to plant behind you. Sit up, lift, and twist. Really pull that right shoulder back. Maybe look over your right shoulder. Getting long through the spine. And sinking a little deeper into that twist with every exhale. When you're ready to come back through center, we're just going to draw some circles with the waist. So what that looks like is just pressing the waist forward, to the left, backward, and to the right. Move however your body wants to. And just try to find, like I said, you're seeking those new sensations, new areas of flexibility in the spine. Notice what you feel. And if this is very uncomfortable for you, you can just come back to that cat-cow movement in sort of the frontal plane only. Feel free to reverse those circles if it feels right. Listen to your body, notice what you feel. Notice any sticking points, any areas of tightness. Any ways that your spine does not want to move. And just make a mental note. We're just observing, exploring our bodies, and trying to connect with our foundation of strength. Again, feel free to close your eyes if it feels good. Notice what you hear, what you feel. And come back through center whenever you're ready. Before we move into bigger movements, we're going to focus a little bit on the neck. So we'll just start with some little half moon rotations, tucking the chin, maybe curling to the left and then rolling to the right. Noticing what you hear, what you feel. Letting go of anything that's not serving you. And just sitting with the sensations in the spine especially. Feel free to explore there, find any easy movement that your body's asking you for. Notice if you've lost connection with those deep breaths. If so, come back to the breath. And just give yourself these few moments just to let your cork float. When you feel satisfied, you can come back to stillness. Maybe just taking a second just to close your eyes and feel grounded. Notice any differences in your posture and try to remember that nice long line from the crown of your head to the tip of your tail. So keep that in mind as we come forward onto all fours. You can center yourself on your mat for a little cat-cow. You can move that pillow to the side if you used one. For cat-cow, we're going to start with a good foundation. So palms are planted under the shoulders. Fingers are nice and wide, spread apart, pressing into all the fingertips. Knees are under the hips, pressing into the tops of the feet. Just noticing every sensation that you feel there. Feeling connected and grounded to the mat. And then feeling that length through the spine. Remember that the neck is an extension of the spine, so try not to let your head just collapse here, but keep that nice long plumb line from the crown of your head to the tip of your tail, and really press your palms into the mat so that you're not kind of sinking down or slouching down into the shoulders, but that you feel supported by the strength there in your upper back. All right, so then when you feel good in your foundation, you can get into your cat-cow. Follow your own breath. As you inhale, drop the belly, tilt the pelvis, pull the shoulders back, lift the gaze. And as you exhale, curl the low ribs inward, pressing into the mat, pressing away from the ground. Really stretching through the upper back, moving through the spine. Find your breath, find your rhythm. And I'm not going to get into any variations of this today, but remember that you can move your spine here however you want to. So if you want to just circle the ribs, or draw circles with the ribs, however you want to envision that. Just move the spine in any way that feels right for you here. Really just trying to just be present in the articulation of the vertebra. Noticing what you feel, noticing areas of flexibility or inflexibility, and just listening to your body. We'll go through one more cycle of breath here. Try to find something new. And when you feel good about it, we can come back to a neutral spine, neutral tabletop. From here, we're going to curl both of the toes under on the left foot and the right. We're just going to extend that right leg straight back behind you. So we'll start just by stretching through that right leg, just kind of rolling forward and backward across the ball of the foot, noticing what you feel in the calf and just enjoying those sensations for a moment. And then when that feels good, or when you're satisfied there, we're going to slide that right foot over to beyond the left side of your mat. So it's kind of crossing over the left foot. Find your range of motion, meet your edge, wherever it lands, it lands. And then once there, you're going to stay on the ball of that foot and just look back over your left shoulder at that left heel or left toes. And maybe imagine pressing the low ribs out to the right on your right side, stretching through the side body. Just noticing what you feel. Big stretch, sync up with your breath. And when you're ready, you can gently slide that right foot back to behind the right hip, so it's extended behind you. And here we're gonna bend into the right knee and bring it toward the nose. And just really squeeze and lift, thinking cat pose in the back. holding that knee up toward the nose, pressing the palms into the mat, pressing away from the earth, letting the shoulder blades slide away from one another, maybe engaging the upper abdominals. Squeeze and lift, a couple more breaths here. Welcoming that heat. And releasing that right knee back to the mat for your tabletop position. So before we go to the other side, we'll take an extended child's pose. Just bring the big toes into touch, send the knees wide, send the hips back toward the heels, and melt your chest down toward the earth. You can rock gently left to right on the forehead just to give yourself a little massage here. Before we come back up, we're going to check in with the side body again. So we'll bring your awareness to your fingertips and then just walk the hands off to the left. Again, find your range, your edge, wherever you land, you land. And then melt the head and the chest down there. Notice what you feel in the side body or anywhere in the body. And just come back to those deep, full breaths. If it feels right, you can reach those right fingertips a little bit further, really feeling that long line of energy from the fingertips all the way down to the right hip. Coming back to your mantra, coming back to the breath. And then coming back to the fingertips, bringing your awareness there, pressing in to walk over to the right side. And same thing over here. Find your edge, find your range. Melt the chest and forehead down to the floor. Feel free to explore with the breath work, or maybe by reaching those left fingertips a little bit further. Come back to your breath, bring your awareness to the fingertips, and we'll walk back through center. When you get there, we'll come back up to tabletop, find that neutral spine and that good foundation again, letting the shoulder blades slide away from one another, really extending the hands, opening up the fingers, pressing into every fingertip, curl the toes under, and this time send that left leg out long. So again, find that gentle rock forward and backward, just feeling that nice stretch through the back of the leg. And then as we slide that left foot to cross over the right, find your range, look back over that right shoulder, pressing into the left side body, pressing the left ribs away from the body. Just notice if anything is different on this side. And maybe it's not, that's okay. Just noticing what you feel, being present, and exploring in any way that is calling to you. When you feel good in this stretch, you feel satisfied, you can slide that left foot back through center. And again, finding a good foundation with the palms. We're going to bend into that left knee, bring that left knee up toward the nose, really squeezing and lifting as high as you can, holding it in tightly, noticing what you feel in the spine, noticing what's happening in the upper back, and maybe engaging those upper abdominals to hold that knee up toward the nose. Take a couple more breaths here, find something different, notice what you feel, stay with those sensations. And when you're ready, you can gently, mindfully lower that left knee to the floor. All right, from here we're going to come into a kneeling toe stand. So you curl the toes under, bring the knees together, you can center yourself on your mat. Just gonna walk yourself up, find your nice long spine, head over heart, heart over pelvis. Palms can just rest on your thighs while you get there, lifting the chest up toward the ceiling. And this might be an intense sensation on the feet if you don't sit like this very often. So if it is, feel free to take breaks just by coming forward back onto all fours when you need to. When you're in this kneeling toe stand, maybe grab the little toe, move it out of the way so that it can also press in, just like your fingertips were in tabletop. So once you get there, we're going to go into some spinal twists. So we're just going to bring the left hand out to the left, the right hand forward, noticing your range here, opening up through the chest, really pulling the elbows back, maybe looking back over your left shoulder. And then gently coming back through center. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Opening up, noticing your range, noticing your flexibility or inflexibility in the spine and where that happens. We'll just do that once more on both sides. So opening up on the left. Notice if your range changes each time you move through. Maybe it doesn't, that's okay. And opening up on the right. And bringing it back through center. Good, you can come back to tabletop for a second if you want to just roll the ankles. It can help release some of that heat. And then when you feel ready, we're going to come into our first downward dog. So keep the toes curled under. Lift up from the tailbone up toward the ceiling, bringing the heels toward the mat. They do not need to touch. You can bend the knees generously if you need to. The most important thing here is that the back is straight. So if you need to bend into the knees to bring the belly to the tops of the thighs, do that. And you may want to walk your hands a little bit farther forward this time than you usually do in your downward dog. We're going to go into some plank waves. So what that looks like is, imagine that there's an invisible 2-foot wall right here underneath the middle of your belly. And you're just going to articulate up and over that wall, coming into the plank pose. So when you come into your first plank, you might see that you need to walk your hands farther forward, so just adjust. Once there, you'll hold for a moment, and then nice and slowly lifting the tailbone up again, finding your downward dog. Remember, your heels do not need to touch the mat. We'll focus more on what's happening in the spine. Sync up with the breath here, and we're going to keep moving through that motion. Coming into your plank. Exhaling, coming into downward dog. Imagine you're moving up and over like a wave. Try to notice as much sensation in the back as you can. So bring your awareness to the vertebra. And allow your spine to move in ways that it typically doesn't get to move. We'll do 1 or 2 more of these and we'll finish in downward dog. So take your time. Or just wait in downward dog if you've had enough. And from that downward dog, we're next going to move into a standing forward fold. So you can just slowly walk your feet up a tightrope in the middle of your mat, coming up to the fingertips until you reach the top of your mat, where your feet will land hip width apart. So from here, feel free to keep your fingertips rested on the mat if you need to do so for balance. Or you can clasp opposite elbows with opposite hands, or you can find a gentle sway in either position. We'll just spend a moment here, noticing what you feel, catching your breath. when you're ready, we're going to go through this root to rise movement. So you're going to really plant the heels, make sure you feel nice and grounded. Keep a light bend in the knees if you need to. And once again, articulating as slowly as possible through the spine. We're just going to plant the heels, press into the heels, and slowly start to curl all the way up to standing. Nice and slow, noticing what you feel in every vertebrae. Curling up slowly, slowly, slowly. And then when you come to standing, really raising the chest toward the ceiling, once again, rolling the shoulders back. And then gently lifting the arms up and overhead, reaching up, maybe lifting your gaze, maybe even coming up on your toes if it feels good. And on your next exhale, we're gonna melt to the left, opening up the arms like we did in our other twist. So you're gonna keep the hips facing forward here, keeping the feet planted, opening up nice and wide. And then we're gonna drop down like we're scooping up water, bending into the knees, coming forward, taking a big scoop, coming back up toward the ceiling, and doing the same thing on the other side, opening up to the right, hips stay facing forward, really pulling that right shoulder, right elbow back, noticing your range, and syncing up with the breath. So once again, exhaling, coming downward, scooping up, lifting that water up and overhead, and then opening up to the left. Try to keep your hips facing the front of the mat and try to open up a little more each time. So come down to your scoop, bring the bucket up, all the way up and overhead, opening up to the right. Try to find a new sensation with every breath. And maybe a little more articulation with every breath, just noticing what you feel. Finding a little fluidity in the movement, giving yourself some space and grace. And we'll do this one more time on each side, or even it out depending where you are. Lifting up, really reaching. Opening up to the left, going down to come up, and opening up to the right. All right, when you're ready, come back through center. Before we switch sides, we're just going to take a little side body stretch here too. So looking down at your feet, let's come up onto the left toes and bring those left toes just behind the right foot. We're going to reach the arms up and overhead, grabbing the left wrist with the right hand, and then just pulling up toward the ceiling and pressing the left hip out toward the left. So just noticing what you feel in the side body here. Find your balance. Find your breath. And when you're ready, you can slowly, gently, mindfully release. Feet hip width apart. Once again, we'll do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to come up onto the right toes, bring those toes behind the left foot. Arms come up overhead. You're going to reach with the left hand to grab the right wrist. Pull it up toward the ceiling, and then press that right hip outward toward the right. Find your breath. Notice where your thoughts go. And release when you're ready, with control. Next, we're going to come into a wide-legged forward fold. So I'm going to turn to the long way on my mat. You can do the same. You can choose how wide that stance is. If you put your hands out left to right, you typically want to be somewhere near ankles under wrists, but whatever your body does today is totally fine. So once you get there, make sure you feel nice and grounded, nice and rooted through the earth. You can bring your hands to your waist. And you really want to angle the toes inward just a bit, so you're really putting pressure into the outside of each foot. So you should feel super grounded, kind of glued in to the mat here. Once you get there and you feel stable, we're going to start just by hinging at the hips. So you're sending the hips back, Coming to a flat back position, nice and slowly. Keeping the hands on the waist, finding that nice long spine. Remember that the neck is just an extension of the spine. So find that flat back position. When you're ready, you can release the fingertips to the floor and kind of just press into the fingertips. Notice how that changes the sensations in your spine. Get nice and long there, stay connected with the spine. We're gonna find another twist variation here too. So we'll start by bringing the right hand directly under the chest, centered under the chest. Again, you're just pressing into the fingertips, or if you want to press into the palm, whichever is easier and more comfortable is fine. Once you're there, we're going to drag the left fingertips along that arm, across the chest, and up toward the ceiling. So your goal is to kind of stack the shoulders here, but in the beginning you may not get there. So just find your range. Wherever you get. Maybe looking over your left shoulder. And then bringing that left hand down to replace the right. We're going to do the same thing with the right hand. Dragging along the left arm, coming up across the chest toward the ceiling. Finding your edge. And melting it back down. You can sync up with your breath if it feels right, or just follow me. Left hand up. Trying to find a little more flexion, a little more movement, different sensations with each repetition. So we're never forcing it, just listening to your body, but maybe meeting your edge each time. Noticing what you feel, notice what's different from one side to the other. And last one, right hand up. And melt it back down. So from here, we're going to come back up onto the fingertips, find that nice flat back once again. And then we're going to move into a yogi squat and into another toe stand variation. So for that yogi squat, you can heel toe the feet a little bit closer. They should still be pretty wide. And then we're just going to bend into the knees, sinking the hips down toward the mat, pressing the elbows into the inside of the knees and bringing palms together at the heart. So again, let's focus on the length of the spine here. The tendency is to kind of slouch forward. So make sure you're really sinking the hips down toward the earth, opening up the chest toward the ceiling, rolling the shoulders back. And just take a moment just to play with that. Notice what you feel. And just relax your feet, feel grounded before we come into that toe stand. Come back to your breath, come back to your mantra, come back to your intention for the practice. Remember that you're building strength in the spine. And try to incorporate that into your intention in this pose. All right, when you're ready, you can just release the hands, come onto the knees. I'm going to turn sideways to center myself on the mat again. We're going to do another toe stand variation, so it will be pretty intense. Remember, you can take a break if you need to, just by releasing and coming onto all fours. We won't be here very long because it is an intense pose in the feet and ankles. So to get set up for that, we're going to curl the toes under. This time we're going to lift the knees. Your feet should be pretty close together. So once you get to the toe stand, you want to really stack the spine again, find your length, get comfortable, get balanced here. That's the first thing. So stacking the spine nice and tall, rolling the shoulders back, lifting the chest will help you find that balance. Connecting with the breath will help you find that balance, but it's going to be challenging, and that's okay. If you fall out or need to take a break, just do that. That's okay. It's your practice. So once you get there, we're going to come into some twist variations again. So we're going to start by opening up the arms left to right, twisting the torso to the left, holding your balance if you can. If you can't, it's okay. And maybe bringing that right hand to the outside of the left knee, pulling that left shoulder back a little further. When you feel good about it, come back through center, take a break if you need to, maybe roll your ankles if you need to. I know it's intense. Remember, we're focusing on the spine in these poses. So when you find your balance, take your time. We'll do the same thing on the other side, opening up to the right, maybe bringing that left hand to the outside of the right knee, pulling that right shoulder back, nice and tall through the chest, lifting it up toward the ceiling, and then coming back through center, resting on the knees if you need to. And we'll do it one more time on each side. So find your toe stand, resting the palms, nice and long through the spine, opening up to the left, maybe bringing right hand to the outside of the left knee. Back through center when you're ready. Take a break if you need to. Same thing on the right. Finding your balance first. Opening up to the right. Left hand to the outside of the right knee. And relax. You can come back to all fours. Find your tabletop. We're going to come into a puppy pose. Walk the hands a little bit further. Melt the chest down, melt the forehead down. Point the toes, roll the ankles if you need to. Just shake them left to right. Shake that off. Feel good about what you just did. Come back to the breath, come back to your mantra. Press the armpits down toward the mat. Notice what you feel in the upper back here and in the shoulders. If you want to gently rock side to side on the forehead, feel free to do that. When you're ready, we're not going to come out of this, but we are going to come up on the fingertips. And we're going to thread the needle first. So we're going to start by lifting the left hand, sliding it under the right, all the way across, coming down to the back of that left shoulder, resting the left ear on the mat, maybe sliding that right hand forward toward the top right corner of your mat. Left palm is open toward the ceiling. Just try to make sure your hips are square by pressing that left hip to the left, drawing the shoulders down and away from the ears. Just noticing what you feel. When you're ready to come out, do so by bringing that right palm under the right shoulder to press up and out safely. You can find your hand placement, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. We're going to start by lifting that right hand up and then sliding it underneath the left arm, coming down to the back of the right shoulder. Maybe sliding that left hand up toward the top left corner of the mat, pulling the shoulders down away from the ears, and pressing into that right hip. Come back to the breath. Close your eyes if it feels good. And with some gentle, loving care, draw that left palm underneath the left shoulder, press up and out. We're going to come back into tabletop pose. Take a second to remember your foundation. And then we're going to come into plank, but only for a second. So we'll start by extending that left leg back behind us like we did in the beginning. Pressing the palms into the mat, letting the shoulder blades slide away from one another so you have a strong upper back. And then extending that right leg too. Nice and long and strong plank. Remember, the neck is a beautiful extension of the spine. So you have a nice long line of energy from the crown of your head, this time all the way through the back of your heels. So we're gonna lower gently to the mat by hugging the elbows in toward the body, slowly coming all the way down to the belly. You can release the toes, come down to the tops of the feet, and then keeping the palms underneath the shoulders, we're gonna go through some cobra motions. So just listen to your back here, make it as small or as big as you need to. But we're gonna gently just extend through the elbows, pressing up. And you don't need to fully extend in the beginning. You can go nice and slow. We're gonna sync up with the breath. Exhaling, coming back down to the mat. Inhaling, pressing up, maybe finding a little more extension, just listening to your body. Exhaling, melting back down. Inhaling, pressing up. Feel free to explore. Maybe move your hands off the mat a little bit wider for your king cobra. If you feel any pinching in the low back, then don't extend fully at the elbows. Just listen to your body. You can also, in this king cobra, just find a gentle sway left to right, noticing what you feel, and just listening to your body. We'll go through this just a couple more times, and then we'll meet in an extended child's pose or traditional child's pose. So if you're ready to move into that, you can. And when you're ready, pressing up to all fours, coming into that child's pose. I'm going to take a traditional child's pose just by bringing the knees together, feet together, sending the hips back, forehead to the mat, and just letting my palms open up toward the ceiling next to my feet. You can also take the extended version like we did earlier, with your knees wide. Just take a moment just to reconnect with the spine, with the breath, with your mantra. Give yourself a few quiet moments to reflect, to let go of anything that's not serving you. And just to dedicate this time to your mind and body for self-care. When you're ready, gently open your eyes if they're closed. We're going to curl very slowly back up to sitting. Again, looking for any opportunity to connect with that articulation in the spine, noticing what you feel. And when you come back to sitting, you just bring the legs out in front of you. We're going to come into a seated forward fold with the knees bent. So sometimes when we do this, we do it with the knees completely extended. And that really gives us a good stretch through the hamstrings and the back of the legs, the posterior chain. When we bring the soles of the feet to the mat and bend at the knees, it gives us a little release in the lower back. So this version is especially good if you have low back pain, which who doesn't? We all do. So when you're here, you can extend the arms up and overhead, get long through the spine, just like we have been, and just extend. Folding forward, you can let your hands rest wherever they do. You can put them on the palms downward on the mat next to you or palms upward. You can also wrap your arms around your legs if it feels good. Nice and passive here, just really curling inward, closing your eyes, connecting with the breath, and enjoying a little low back relief if you typically have pain there. So again, just connecting with the breath, connecting with your body, staying present in the sensations of your breathing rhythm and anything else that you feel. Just observing. When you're ready to come out, remember that opportunity just to plant the sits bones, plant the tailbone, slowly curl up. Notice everything you're feeling in the spine. Roll your shoulders back, lift the chest toward the ceiling. I'm going to center myself on the mat here. Maybe move forward toward the top edge of your mat. You can extend your legs fully. We'll take a moment just in Dandasana, staff pose here, just by bringing the palms next to the hips, sitting up nice and tall. Just taking a few deep breaths just to be as tall as you can through the spine. Notice if that's uncomfortable. It's a little unnatural for most of us because of the way that we typically sit and our posture when we're standing and walking. So just take this opportunity to honor the natural curvature of the spine. Breathe deep all the way down into the sits bones. Feeling grounded, feeling centered, building a strong foundation. And then when you're ready, we'll bring the palms together in front, elbows extended. You can interlace your fingers or just keep the palms flat together here. And we're gonna slowly lower onto our backs. So try to go as slowly as you can, again, articulating through the spine as much as possible. If you need to point your toes to help stay rooted into the mat, you can do that. But we're just gonna gently, slowly roll back to lying. Maybe fall back, but try not to. Try to notice everything you feel in the spine. Try to oppose gravity a little bit. Find grace in the movement. And then send your arms out left to right when you get there. So once there, we'll take a second just to curl the knees in toward the chest. Maybe wrap your arms around them. Maybe rock gently side to side. Just notice how that feels. And then keeping your knees where they are, we're going to send the arms back out left to right. So keep those knees bent to 90 degrees, and we're going to gently roll from the left side to the right side a couple of times. So you're going to keep your shoulder blades planted if possible. Keep your arms planted, palms downward to anchor you if you need. And we're just going to roll those stacked knees over to the left, touch the ground. On your inhale, bring them back up through center. Exhale, roll to the right, touch the ground. Inhale, bring them back up through center. Exhale, roll to the left, gently touching the ground. Remember, shoulders are planted. Inhale, come back up through center. Exhaling into that twist on the right. Inhaling back up through center. And this time, when you roll to the left, we're just going to leave the knees right there on the ground. So just get comfortable there. Adjust your upper body if that right shoulder came up off the mat. And then take any variation that you want to here. So you can just rest your left hand on top of the outside of the right thigh if you want to. You can extend that right leg if you want to. Just listen to your body. We'll spend a couple of breaths here before we move into Shavasana. When you're ready to switch sides, you can plant that left palm again if it's not there already. Find your inhale, power back up through center, and melt those stacked knees down on the right. Adjust your upper body if you need to. Remember, we're keeping that left shoulder pinned to the mat. Take any variation you want to here and give yourself a few deep breaths. When you feel satisfied here, we're going to move into Shavasana. So whenever you're ready, and however you want to, feel free to move there. If you need to take any other movements that your body's asking for before we move into that, please feel free to do so. And when you're ready, you can extend the legs long, open up the palms toward the ceiling. Release the full weight of your body into the mat and just let the earth support you here. Try to let go of any tension you're holding in the face or the neck or the shoulders or the palms or the toes. Taking this time just to let your cork float. Just to exist as you are. Give yourself this space and the grace to do so. Commit to a few more minutes of surrender. Allowing your body not only to rest, but to restore. Absorbing the nutrients of your practice, enjoying those endorphins. And just letting your thoughts drift by like clouds in the sky, practicing non-attachment. Remember, if you're having difficulty with concentration or you feel distracted, just come back to the breath. Just listen to your natural breathing rhythm, like the sound of waves crashing on the beach. Or maybe just do a little body inventory, noticing every sensation that you feel, your body touching the mat, everything that you feel from your toes, all the way up through the crown of your head. Take this time to remember your mantra or what brought you to the mat today. And set this intention for the rest of your day or the rest of your week as you get started. I'd like to take this time just to do a land acknowledgement. We say thank you to the Osage, the Monongahela, the Erie, and the other indigenous peoples that inhabited this land before us. Without their sacrifices, I would not be here practicing yoga with you today. If you feel comfortable in doing so, feel free to bring your palms together to rest gently on the forehead or at the third eye, so we can close this practice. We recognize that yoga is an ancient spiritual practice stemming from the subcontinent of India, so we respect and honor that first and foremost. We also recognize that yoga is many things to many people, including a community. I thank you so much for being part of my community. Thank you so much for letting me lead you in this practice today. I hope you got what you needed, and I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.